Martin Necas, the Carolina winger. Available via trade, RFA to B, looking for a big payday and looking for a role increase. And TSN's Darren Dreger reporting that Carolina is looking for a top 3 to 4 defenseman in return for Martin Necas. I got to say, when I saw that ask, I thought, ooh, that's a little less than I would have expected. Now, I know he wants to get paid, so and with the cap going up, you're going to be on the hook for a good salary here. By the same token, I think, some of those offensive totals could still improve from here when you take a look at the team he plays on, who he plays with, who he plays below in the lineup. So he's an intriguing player. Of that, there's no doubt, and it would absolutely fit the Vancouver Canucks bill for a scoring winger to play alongside Liz Pettersson. A number 3 to number 4 defenseman. And Blake, I don't believe they are going to trade Filip Hronek. I don't believe I wouldn't personally trade Filip Hronek unless I'm bowled over. But if they're looking for a 3 to 4 defenseman, could you get Necas and something for Filip Hronek?
Well, that would be the question. Is that an overpay then for the Canucks, just Hronek 1 for 1?
Oh, I think so. Oh, for sure it's an overpay. A top pair right shot defenseman is worth more than a top 6 winger, unless that top 6 winger is, Kucherov, Pasternak, somebody in that realm. And Necas is not that guy.
And of course, there's the contract consideration for Necas as well, right? So you don't really know the cost unless they.
I'm not sure you're getting ahead financially, put it that way. I think the difference between him and Hronek would be negligible.
But if it also comes with, you're suggesting Kotkaniemi and Necas?
Well, I think that would be a bridge too far for them.
Yeah.
But something else, and it's a deep organization, Blake. They have done a terrific job of drafting and developing. Like, you're not going to get that Nikishin young defenseman because he's probably a top 10 prospect in the world right now. But I think you can get a second piece.
Ryan Suzuki's probably not going to pan out.
No,
I don't think so.
Not Suzuki. No. It probably wouldn't be Morrow. He's going to be stepping in on the right side on defense. There's another good young prospect, but
yeah, I mean, there are options there for sure. Mm-hmm. Or do you do something just for the now rather than the future? It is just taking a guy like Jesper Fast off their hands.
Who can play? Now older, final year of his contract.
Yeah, that's for the now.
The other thing is Carolina tends to do this, be competitive year in, year out without peeling a ton of draft picks. They have every single one of their picks and 2 bonus 6-rounders in this upcoming draft. They're without 3rd-rounders next year, the year after. They're without a 5th-rounder next year. I understand the Canucks are not in the business of collecting draft picks right now, that they're looking to do more work at the NHL club level, but it's not like you say no to draft picks if they're attached or young players. They have a pretty good reserve list in Carolina too. So, prospects who are still unsigned. Maybe the kid they took out of the BCHL in the first round, Nadeau.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just throwing things out there because if that is the ask for that level of player, then that is a very, very interesting target for the Canucks as they seek the Elias Pettersson solution.
And maybe the second bit, as we say, it's Necas, and maybe the second bit is something that you just swing around and help you acquire the next defenseman.
And it's not that the Canucks have a lot of bad contracts on the books, but maybe that's getting rid of a contract you don't want anymore.
Right. Does it become Hronek and Mikheyev for Necas?
And maybe even something else there too. Anyways, my mind started to drift towards the concoctions, the possibilities here.
Yeah.
When I heard Dreger say they're only looking for that level of defenseman.
Need a tire change or tire service? Mr. Lube provides no appointment tire service and sales. Drop by anytime for rotation, repair, balancing, servicing all makes and models, including electric vehicles. 16 locations in the Lower Mainland. For one near you, go to MrLube.com.
I mean, the other thing, and Carolina's done a little bit of this, take on reclamation projects of other teams.
Well, you could take on reclamation projects of that team. Like if they have run out of patience with Jesperi Kotkaniemi, maybe you just make this deal bigger. Period.
I mean, I'm looking at Brendan Lemieux, Maxime Comtois, Ty Smith, Tony D'Angelo, a couple of times. They have taken on reclamation projects on top of everything else that they do. So, yeah, as you'll hear later in the show with Saravelli, Vancouver, Carolina, two of the more interesting, and one would suspect two of the more active franchises this offseason, with a lot of in-house business to do, not to mention long, hard looks in the mirror. Here's where we got. How do we get to the next step? And of course, Vancouver's doing that for the first time. Carolina's doing that for the umpteenth time after being a perennial playoff team and not getting past that conference final level. Our dear friend David Quadrelli, the editor-in-chief of Canucks Army,
the Quad Father,
the host of Canucks Conversation, they record their show right here in this studio. Sometimes David Quadrelli messes with my chair, but we've litigated that in the past.
They make a green in here, which is irking when I come in after their show and everything's green.
They don't always clean up after themselves, it must be said. Nevertheless, do like him. He has penned a piece on Canucks Army, canucksarmy.com, walkaway numbers for the Vancouver Canucks, which is a good story idea.
We've talked a little bit about this peripherally already.
And every single one, you can look at them in isolation or you can look at them in context. It is sometimes harder to bring in the assorted context, but we'll do our utmost here. Nikita Zadorov, 5 years, $6 million per.
5 years at $6 million?
5 years at $6 million, he says, is the walkaway number.
Yeah.
5 years takes him to age 34, which is something I would be willing to live with.
That part is fine. If it's 5 at 5.5, I'm in lockstep with him. You're at 5 times 5.5. I'm still listening.
Yep.
5 at 5, I'm signing it. 5 at 5.5, I'm listening.
Tyler Myers, 3 at $3 million per.
I would love it to begin with the 2.
Yeah, to me, that's too much on a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
So I'm with him. I'd walk it away.
Yeah. 275, 25. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Ian Cole, 1 year, $1.25 million.
1.25. He's walking away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's quibbles and bits there, because at 1, you're probably fine, right? So we're talking about $250K. You usually don't walk away for that.
You just said you're walking away on Myers over.
That's over 3 years, though. That's almost $1 million, right? So,
frankly, I'm not walking away with Cole on that number.
I guess I'm saying I could stomach it.
Yeah, because here's why. If you don't re-sign Zadorov, you want a left side third pair guy. I think Ian Cole could, and I would want some cover there. I would want another defenseman who would be able to play there. So your 7's got to be pretty good, or at least playable. But that's something I.
What did he make?
And then
year?
you fix it in season, like come the trade deadline, you look at it and go, okay, Ian Cole has done yeoman's work, but he's a limited player. We love what he does in the room. Now we're going to go out and replace him. And he's going to be a spare defenseman if we're fully healthy.
You do have to look at what he made this year, because you have to see the savings. And then
what did he make this year?
3. Yeah. So,
but he's 35,
right? But still, like he's going to be at least a portion of his self this year, and to save almost $2 million on that, that seems pretty intriguing.
So I would go there with Cole.
Yeah. So
the first one I disagree with on quads. Philip Roenick, 8 years, $8 million.
Definitely I'm walking away before that. So
and this is the one where we disagree, because I would go there.
You would do this contract?
Yeah, I would, for all the assorted reasons that we have talked about.
Yeah,
because the cost of replacing him on the first pair with a guy who you don't know works as well with Hughes is going to be around that anyways, or you get worse there. And for me, part of the Vancouver Canucks formula, why they were a good team, a division champion team, is they finally fixed the top right side defenseman beside Quinn Hughes.
The devil you know better is
Absolutely.
Who hasn't worked with Quinn Hughes? Because he's had a great partner his entire career.
Right.
So why the fear that
who worked best with Quinn Hughes? Who got Quinn Hughes to a level whereby he's likely to be named the NHL's best defenseman?
I'm not ready to credit Philip Roenick for that. I think this was
so the first
arc
half of the
upwards.
season,
Yeah,
they were probably the best defense pair in the NHL, right?
Yeah.
So to me, there is a substantial difference between that and a Chris Tanev working.
Luke Shen,
Noah Juleson working. Because when those guys were on the ice, you weren't playing a lot of defense because you had the puck on your stick so much and were in the other zone scoring goals. So to me, it's almost like your 4-point game, if you will. It's not just the 2 points you get, it's the 2 points you don't lose.
Yeah, I'm not willing to compare 19-year-old Quinn Hughes with current Quinn Hughes and performance with
That's fair enough.
Well, there is a natural progression.
You do agree that you need to play him with a offensively inclined defenseman who's good with the puck on his stick and can shoot some, right?
I think you need to play him with a good skater. I don't think you need to play him with an offensively.
Okay.
I think you need to play him with a good skater.
And to me, that's where we disagree, because to me, a lot of the Canucks' success was built on the fact that they were able to score goals with the defense, and particularly that top pair being big contributors.
For half a season. The other half of the season.
Then he got hurt, Blake.
Who?
Right.
He wasn't hurt.
Oh, please don't give me that shit.
Well, here's the point. Quinn Hughes, really, was there a downtick? If you look hard enough, there's a small downtick in the in the back half of the season.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah,
there was.
Incremental downtick for him. Massive cliff for Philip Roenick. Right. So I think that proves the point that you don't need the offensively inclined defenseman, because Roenick didn't become that. He just became a good skater. He wasn't pushing the offense. Didn't shoot for months, weeks. So I
he's dealing with an elbow.
Right, but that proves the point that as long as it's just a seasoned skater, that's going to work with Quinn Hughes. And I'm not willing to blow the budget for that.
But you say below the budget. Where are you otherwise spending your money?
Well, on a defenseman that is a little bit more balanced, maybe a little bit more, a little bit cheaper, a $6 million defenseman.
Okay, but who is that that's playing 24 minutes a night?
Well, you explore that and you find out if Pesce and Montour, and find out what their costs are. And as I said, that's the beauty here. The Canucks don't need to make this trade if they have to make a trade because they find they're at an impasse. They don't have to make it before July 1st. They're in control.
Okay, that brings up the other problem. He's not worth as much as you think he's worth on the trade market because he's going in the final year before unrestricted free agency with arb rights. Like, if he had 4 years left on his deal and you thought the second half Roenick is closer to the reality going forward than the first half Roenick, but he's got a tradable contract and someone's going to give us something substantial back, I'm with you, Blake. But I just don't think you're going to be able to reap a top pair right side all situations defenseman by peddling a guy who either the other team has to give a boatload of money to or resign themselves to the fact that he's going to be UFA in a year.
Other teams are in better cap condition than the Vancouver Canucks are. Other teams are more desperate for defensemen of any sort than the Vancouver Canucks are. And, you can't have it both ways. Either the injury was an excuse or it wasn't. And if we're if we're going to take your stance that the injury was an excuse, then you're getting a full year to negotiate with a spectacular right shot defenseman. I think most teams would be lining up for that.
Would you go to ARB, accept whatever it is, and see what happens next year?
No,
that's unpalatable usually for management groups. But is there anything about the specific situation of Roenick that would lead you down that path?
Now, the arbitration is not till August, right? So you've got, again, the time here. So if you spend the first 10 days of free agency going, oh shit, there is nothing out there defensively for us, then no, I think you negotiate in earnest over the next month and avoid arbitration.
But just to be clear, you acknowledge you don't know that Pesce or Montour works with Hughes. You would be hoping Pesce and Montour works with Hughes because others have worked with Hughes. That's
correct.
That's the underpinning logic.
And they've both played on elite teams.
Yeah.
With elite line mates, pairing mates.
Yeah. I'm willing to pay for the known. I go into my rotisserie baseball drafts every spring and go, I'm going to go out and get the 8-year starting pitcher who I know is probably around a 4 ERA rather than banking on the young guy that I hope one day gets that. That's just the way I'm wired.
But what's known? We saw the Lotto line reunited ad nauseum throughout the season to no effect.
No, not throughout the season.
Yeah. And they were nowhere clear to what their historic highs were. Teddy Bluger reunited with Joshua and Garland.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you guys this. Do you subscribe to the Alvin theory that Hronek has to be able to drive his own pairing if he wants to get paid that much?
So I think that's a very useful thing for a general manager to say in the on the cusp of a contract negotiation. I philosophically, I agree, but I also know that my coaching staff thought that Hughes and Hronek worked so well together that we did not see them. Did we see them split like more than once this? Like they didn't split them at all this year. So my coaching staff is pretty clear on the matter. They think those two guys together gives their club the best chance of winning. And frankly, I think they're right because take a look at the evidence of this past year. So I think that's something that Alvin and the Canucks will say to Hronek and his agent. Well, he played second fiddle on our top pair. It's not like he was the driver on the second pair. And I'm just not sure it will resonate because it's a market forces are in play here, supply and demand, and Alan Walsh and Philip Hronek know full well who has the leverage.
Did Brendan Morrison drive play on the West Coast Express? I wouldn't say he drove play, but he was the perfect fit for the group.
Right. He was the creator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the chemistry, the line would not have been what it was if you did not have a pass first playmaker in the middle.
But
right?
he
was perfect for the big power forward and for the shooter.
They were pretty good with Andrew Castles,
who was also a pass first centerman.
So it's just, if it fills a need, it fills a need for you and you're willing to pay for it. Zach Hyman is the winger for Connor
Here's
McGinn.
my point. A great call on the West Coast Express play. If you would drop Jeff Carter or Jeremy Hronek or a shoot first centerman on that line, probably doesn't work as well, right?
Mm-hmm. But conversely,
great players, all three of them, but the chemistry would not have been there because Bertuzzi's not setting things up for the most part, and Marcus wants to shoot at his fair share as well.
Also, conversely, if you drop Brendan Morrison with, I don't know who was on there, the team
Jakub Voracek, who wants to
Brad Isbister and Trent Klatt, they wouldn't nearly have been as good either, right? So he's not driving play, but it works.
But use a playmate like a Voracek or some of these guys who want to play make off the wing. You put Morrison with them, it's not going to work as well. All fine players.
Yeah.
Devon Taves in Colorado. Were you going to take him off, expect him to drive his own pair? Is Sam Girard filling in and stepping up to that level?
That's a great point. And that was a Stanley Cup winning pair, right?
Yeah.
And frankly, I think you're going to see more of that going forward. That Stanley Cup teams not only have the depth 1-2 through center ice, and oftentimes 1-2-3 through center ice, but have that great pair. I mean, we've seen it. Chicago, Keith and Seabrook, before Brent started piling up the injuries. I mean, there's that one year Chicago played like 3 or 4 damn defensemen in the entire Stanley Cup playoffs and won the cup.
And Brent Seabrook wasn't about to drive a pairing either, by the way. That was Duncan Keith's pairing.
What do we mean when we say drive a pairing? Help me define this for
the Magic. The Magic starts with that particular player. Is
the Magic,
if good things are going to happen,
zone exits, clean zone entries, and then offensive threat once you're in the zone,
it's going to be a totality of things. But where the strength of the pairing lies where if you extract that guy, the pairing really doesn't have a ton going for it. That's that guy.
So if you're telling me driving pairings means clean zone exits, clean zone entries, offensive threat once you get there, and good defensive zone coverage, yeah, I think Roenick can do that.
Here's
not to the level of Hughes, of course not. We've got a unicorn here. But I think he can do that when healthy, yes.
Here's the thing. Within reason, you can play anybody with Quinn Hughes, and the numbers will be respectable.
That's right. That's right. But that's not what you're aiming for. You don't want respectable. You want great.
No, but that's about driving play, though. In terms of what drives play, you can play anybody with Hughes, and it's only going to get so bad.
Yeah.
That's not the case, I don't think, with Philip Roenick. I think you could play a couple guys with him, and it's going to be a tire fire.
Oh, well, yes. Philip Roenick is not so individually blessed with talent that if you throw a tomato can beside him, he's going to look great.
And just decision making. I've seen poorer decisions from him.
But okay, so let's play it out. Their second pair left side guy, Carson Soucy. I think I would be fine with that pair.
Yeah.
I don't think it's your optimal deployment.
No,
but if for whatever reason they had a top pair right side defenseman drop in and play above Roenick, and Roenick had to play with Soucy, I'd be fine with that.
That's going to be at worst.
It's not happening.
League average, but I don't think it's going to be a top second pairing in the league, though.
No, that's probably fair, but that's in some ways, some would say Soucy's a little overcast at second pair. That on a really good team that he's the third pair guy. And it depends how you slice up your pie, right? Like there's only so many cap dollars available. And of course we've seen so few increases in the cap that teams are having to sort of figure it out a little differently than I think they will going forward here. And of course cap is going up this year. And I know he has skepticism beyond this year, but I think it's going to be going up by healthy margins for several years now. Elias Lindholm, 7 years at $7 million per.
To me, I'm signing that.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm signing that. I think that would age really well. I think in 3 years' time, while you might be concerned about what Lindholm is, I think $7 million is not going to be crazy.
And here's one where in isolation, I'd sign that as well. But the context for me is I want to know what I'm doing on defense before I commit that money.
Yep, that's true.
So you want to have Miller and Lindholm down the middle, who are over 30 at those prices for 7 years.
Well, he's going to be your third line winger, the third line center.
That is a lot
to
of
some
money.
degree, this is moot and academic because Elias Lindholm is not signing here to be a third line center. But
he's not. Yeah,
that's a lot of money down the middle. I know it's a strong position you build around, but I just wonder with the aging curves with those two guys.
I think in 3 or 4 years' time, you're not going to be saying that about $7 million though.
Dakota, if the cap does go up,
Dakota Joshua 3 years at 3.5 per.
No, not doing that. I'm walking away for sure. Yes, I'm in agreement. Walking away.
Yeah, so am I. I really want to love Dakota Joshua as a player. And on nights when he's going, boy, do I ever.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem is it's just not consistent enough. Like he had to be encouraged, motivated to get in better shape at the beginning of the year by Tocchet, which for me was not a great sign. You know, kid, you've played 1 year in the NHL. That doesn't mean you're a made guy. That was not a great sign to me. Now, full credit to him for doing what was asked of him, getting in better shape, playing better as the year went along. Found terrific chemistry with Connor Garland. Really liked the way those two work. And of course, at one point in time with Teddy Bluger, it's not exactly a gifted offensive centerman, which looks even better on him. And then with Elias Lindholm. I know they want him to play tougher because he's one of the bigger guys they have. I thought the fight in Chicago was pure idiocy and cost them 20 games. And then it was awesome that he played those terrific game ones against Nashville and Edmonton. but then just sort of seeped into the proceedings. Wasn't active enough, wasn't consistent enough.
Given that inconsistency,
like 1.5 to 2 great games in a 7-game series need a little more. So I would let somebody else pay him, and as Alvin said, find the next Dakota Joshua. Even though I'd sweat it a little bit because having that great third line for a big part of the season was another.
He was $800,000
driver of success.
I would triple his salary. I'm not quadrupling his salary.
Okay, so that's 2.4.
Yeah,
going 3 years on 2.4.
Yeah, I would do that.
I might even go to 3 here, Blake.
I would go 3.
3
There's
three.
no way he's signing 2.4.
No,
probably
way.
not. So that's what I'm saying. I walk away at something that begins with the 3. The consistency was not there.
And you put on your best case here. You go, Dakota, we're the organization that basically launched you as an NHL player. You got better here, and you will continue to get better here under Rick Tocchet. But here's where we need you to fit in salary cap wise to continue your improvement and progression as an NHL
and for
player.
you to win with this organization. I could go to 275.
Make the plea.
This is the downside of the salary cap for the fans and media covering is that it makes you make these harsh decisions on players that you would gleefully have on your team. I gleefully would have Dakota Joshua on my team.
Yep.
But you have only so many credits to dole out on a year-by-year basis, and you have to decide who's taking how many credits. And that's effectively the exercise here with this column is how many credits you're willing to dole out to each of these pieces. And eventually you have to just say, I love you, but I can't.
Right.
Hey everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming. It's called subscribe on YouTube. How about liking it? Do that as well. Smash it right now.